Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time you listen to this, it's your host, Don, and we're flying solo today. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast, and I'm glad you're back. So, what am I talking about today? Well, I'm going to tell you. We're going to keep this one short, and I've got a couple of analogies, and that's it. I just thought, how do we lift it up so that you've tuned in, you've got, hopefully we're going to go 20 minutes and you're going to take something away that's going to make you either laugh or think about it or, ruminate with someone, with yourself. So the first one, and there's 3 points, essentially. If it takes us 10 minutes, then that's all good. We'll just do 10 minutes. The first one is, and these notes I take from my WhatsApp. So if you want to understand what second brain works like, and how sometimes you'll be in the middle of something, you'll think of something, and you'll be like, oh, I've got to remember that, and you forget about it, and it's on your mind. Create a WhatsApp group on your WhatsApp with you only. Or if you can't do it with you only, you and someone else, and then kick that other person out. Okay, so then it's just left with you. And then pin that WhatsApp group to the top of your WhatsApps. And then call that second brain. And every time you have an idea, then go and write it down in there. And then if you even better, like one step better, is make sure that weekly or monthly you're taking time to take the notes that you've put down there and put them into the relevant places. That's something that's been very useful to me. So I was just looking through mine because I thought, we've got 20 minutes. How can we add an effect? And I'd written a couple of things down. The first one was your current lifestyle reinforces your dopamine. Okay, and I was like, oh, that's good. And I was like trying to think, when did I think about that? And I actually couldn't. But it was really good way of going, comfort zone. You hear people talk about your comfort zone and, how to identify that. But if you understand dopamine and, you go listen to the latest Stephen Bartlett's, not the latest, one of the ones Stephen Bartlett did with the dopamine, all around dopamine with a lady. I can't remember what her name was because I was interested in what she was talking about. But essentially, dopamine is a survival mechanism, and we will reinforce things that make us feel good because that's the dopamine hit. And then what happens is you drop off the other side and you feel not so good. So you then redo that same thing and then you keep going. So that's essentially dopamine is a survival mechanism thing. So you chase a deer, you kill it. And then immediately after that, you get the drop off from that positive reinforcement you got from killing the deer, which makes you want to kill another deer. And then you keep doing that cycle, and that's how you survive. And I was like, that's a really cool way of looking at dopamine, because I think we hear all about, if you're scrolling and it's capturing your dopamine, but you actually don't understand what the mechanism is for it. So if you can understand the mechanism, that gives you a bit more power. So back to the point of your current lifestyle, whatever you're doing reinforces your dopamine, because if it didn't, you wouldn't carry on doing it. So that's point one you've got to think about. Now, adding on to that is any change that you try and implement is going to create a withdrawal from what you were getting, because that was the dopamine hit that you're used to. Now, how you navigate that change, obviously we could spend a lot longer talking around that. But I just wanted to create that awareness within you. If you're listening to this, is like any change that you try and create will create a withdrawal of the dopamine mechanisms that you've got going in the rhythm of your life. Just knowing this will give you power. What I mean by that is, if you understand that you're getting run by dopamine, I'm hopefully raising consciousness into the human side of you, as in the fly on the wall, observing yourself, because you're getting run by your biology. You're getting run by things that you're not necessarily aware of, which is dopamine. And that's why you do things that you probably shouldn't be doing, but you can't help doing them, and you keep doing them anyway. And you're like, oh, what's making me do this? That's dopamine. It's there as a survival mechanism. Let's keep that as a good thing, but let's direct it in the way that we want to direct it. This is where you get your power from. So if your current lifestyle is reinforcing your dopamine of survival and your comfort blanket and your comfort zone, then I want you to think about the change that you want to make. That's something that you want to lead yourself into, but know that the gap between where you are now with your comfort zone and where you want to be, there's going to be some turmoil. And you can look at that turmoil as withdrawal from your dopamine reinforcement. So I want you to try and think about things that when you make a change, that change has got to lead you towards more dopamine or a different type of dopamine. And go after that. That's going to make your change a lot easier than trying to stop a dopamine hit and not replace it with another. Does that make sense? So you've got to make sure you're thinking about those things at a deeper level, because that's what's going to make your change sustainable and also give you a lot more power. One of the most empowering things that I've taken away lately is you get a positive dopamine, which is cheap and easy, like drinking, smoking, eating junk food, right? Positive dopamine hits straight away, bang. What's going to happen off the back of that is you're going to get the drop off and feel not so great, which then makes you want to do the same thing again. And that's where you get that horrible cycle of eating junk food and binge eating, or when you're stressed, you go and eat something that makes you feel good because you want to get away from feeling bad. What is really key is the reverse is the same too. If you do something that you don't really want to do, the negative dopamine hit that you get from that is going to create an equal and opposite positive reaction and hopefully make you feel better. This is one example of why ice baths work, because you don't want to get in. It creates this negative dopamine response, which then makes you feel better. And that's in a roundabout way, by the way, so don't quote me on that. This is just my understanding. If you then go and do things that you don't really want to do, they're a hard hit like working out, understand that what comes off the back of that is a positive dopamine hit. Why I think that that's powerful, and we know that it happens, but we don't think about it in that context, is when you go to gym, don't think about how hard it is to gym then. Think about how you're going to feel in an hour's time after that. And be aware of how you feel an hour's time after you've gymmed, and make sure that you are linking that feeling to the fact that you've gymmed, so that you are leading your subconscious or your mind or your pattern recognition to go, oh, okay, so I gymmed and I feel good after I gymmed because I know that the negative dopamine hit I went after creates a positive reaction later. Okay, so this is how my mind works, right? Is because I'm able to go, I know that this negative reinforcement of going to the gym is going to make me feel good later. I'm happy to do it. And this has been almost a breakthrough revelation, because I haven't, since I retired, been able to genuinely, consistently gym 3 or 4 times a week with everything else going on. But in the last month, it's been so easy to do it. And I haven't changed anything other than gained a little deeper understanding of, maybe instead of just thinking about gym and how hard that is to actually start and get going, think about how it's going to make you feel later, and understand that there is a scientific reinforcement for that, which is the dopamine thing. So I just thought I'd want to pass that on as like a quick knowledge bite. Hopefully that's going to help you with anything that you're trying to understand. Like, first of all, the reason that you're struggling to change isn't because you're not able to change or you're inadequate. It's because your current lifestyle reinforces your dopamine. Okay, so just think about that. You need to go through a bit of negative dopamine hits to create the positive reaction to help make you change long term. So I'm just trying to hope that I'm hoping that that gives you the power to change if you've had things holding you back. And generally, it might be quite easy for you to do once you frame it that way, because it really has helped me. And this is about sharing the journey, right? So we are on episode 62 and still doing some amateurish production, but I know that we've made some progress. And if you've been with us since the beginning, I hope you're enjoying the journey. The next analogy, and I tested this out last night, and I quite enjoy it. And it's about like how you deal with emotion, and especially from a men's point of view, is you don't want to share because what's the point? So what do? We bury it. And I know that women do the same thing, by the way. But you bury it and you go, oh, it's fine, I'll deal with it. I'm not angry, I'm fine. I'm not angry, I'm fine. I'm not sad, I'm fine. And we just bury it. Eventually it starts to manifest itself in different ways, right? So I think we can all attest that if you go, no, it doesn't, I deal with it fine, understand that you're just blind to how it's coming across to others, and you need to ask your friends to be kind to you and care to you, and stop being nice and just give you some honest feedback, especially if you know that in the back of your mind there's something that you haven't dealt with or something in your past that you go, it doesn't matter. Those things are all playing out. Now, what's the analogy with this? Well, to put it frank, pissing your pants. Okay, so when you need a wee, you hold it in, right? And that's fine. You can hold it in, be fine. And then it's going to keep building because your bladder is full. But you just hold it in. You're like, I don't need to wee. Don't need a wee. I'm fine. Eventually, if you hold on to that, you understand the negative effects of holding on to your wee. Okay, you're probably going to end up pissing your pants in public, and it's going to be really embarrassing. The same happens with emotions, is when they start to bubble up because you're too stressed or your pot is full. You start to have outbursts at things that you know you shouldn't. Generally, if you think about from a parenting perspective, is you can be great, kind, soft, generous, loving to your kids, and then when they do the 11th thing that they shouldn't have done after you've told them 10 times not to do it, that outburst comes. That's that same thing. So how do we start to recognize our emotions and get rid of them, let them pass through us? And it's not by bearing them in and going, I'm going to be fine. Now, what does that mean? Go and talk to someone. And I don't mean it necessarily a therapist. I'm saying talk to a friend, talk to a partner, go and journal, go and talk to yourself. Just go for a walk and just do some self-narrating. I don't know, maybe that's the next trend is just speak out loud. Or go and make a video journal of yourself. So sit in front of a camera, talk to yourself, and just keep it somewhere. That's an interesting exercise. But the point is, once you get it out of you and you hear yourself talking about it, you can reflect on it. Your brain's going to find answers. That's essentially just like taking a wee. So you want to take a wee and get it out so you're not holding it in so that it's going to come back later. Okay, so I hope that analogy is like, don't set yourself up to piss in your pants. Go to the toilet and do what you need to do. Okay, let's get rid of those emotions. And then lastly, I had this note, and one day I'm going to write a book around this, I think. One day, once I get the story. But it's essentially around perspective and duality. So one of the thoughts about, I've got identity human that I'm super passionate about, and I really want to dive all in. I want to stay up till 4 a.m. and making sure that I'm staying in flow and building things out and making sure that it's all there and taking action and developing the things that need to be developed. But on the other hand, I'm passionate about my kids and my family. So I also want to make sure I'm spending time with them. And if I go to sleep at 4 a.m. and I have to be up at 6, I'm not necessarily going to be the best version of myself, especially over long term. So you have this duality of kids are momentum killers. That's a thought that comes up sometimes, like, I'm spending time with my kids, so I could be spending 8 hours working. So we've all been there. Maybe not. Then the other side of it, so if you've got kids are momentum killers versus you'll never regret the time you spent with your kids. And I can't get past that. Like I cannot get past that. And I always think, if you think about at what cost, for me, there's a constant balancing act between, at the moment, is like what feeds my passion externally, so that I know that I'm having a part to play on the wider scene of things in the future of my kids and generally how they play into it, as well as just being a present dad and making sure that I'm able to do that, or a present husband. And what is interesting is the situation doesn't change. I have identity human. I have 4 children. But my perspective on it completely sets the tone for my emotions on it. And I'm hoping you've got something similar that you can tie into. It's like, I want us to try and recognize that the situation isn't changing, but the perspective that we are keeping is determining the emotions that we have towards that situation. And sometimes we won't try so hard to change the emotions that we got, but realistically what we need to do is just think about the other side, think about a different perspective and look for them. If you can't find one, go and look for one, because that's sometimes as simple as it needs to be. Is like when you're stuck in this rut of emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, sadness, why can't I think of any more emotions? Are those just the main ones? Happiness, not that we want to change perspective on it, or not being able to find happiness, is it's not the situation that needs to change. It's your viewpoint on it. So are the kids being the momentum killers? Are they really getting in the way? Or are you going to take on the point of like, you'll never regret the time you spent with the kids? So I'm going to accept that I've got the kids. This is their time. But that doesn't mean that I can't still be driven and still be passionate. It means I have to be more strict with my boundaries. And so I want to lay that challenge to you, is don't use the excuse that kids are momentum killers as the example. Use the reasoning of like, I'm really going to enjoy spending time with them, so that when I'm not with them, I'm super productive. So that I realize that those 5 hours that I sit, if I don't make sure that they're golden, I can't go back and be with my kids and go like, I don't get enough time. Because actually you just need to be more efficient. You don't need to have more time, because if you had more time, would you create that much more efficiency? Probably not. So the high performance elements and identity human and all the mental things that we try and talk about is recognizing that the excuses of not having enough time and, kids are getting in the way, or I'd rather spend time with the kids instead of the business, Those are your excuses that you're buying into. But there is another way. There is always another way. Okay. And you just have to learn to change your perspective on it. Okay. So this wasn't meant to be a long one. I got my 3 points across. Sometimes it doesn't have to be 60 minutes for you guys to understand. I'm hoping that I sprinkled a little bit of gold dust for you. One of those 3 things are going to be something for you to ruminate on this week. And if something does hit home, please do comment on the episode and let us know what you think. It's good to see sometimes what the audience is taking on and what things are more important to them. So just a summary: remember to go to the toilet. Don't end up pissing your pants. Your current lifestyle is reinforcing your dopamine, i.e. that's how you define your comfort zone. And finding perspective in situations where you can't see another point of view is going to help you move through things and create acceptance. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. This is short and sharp. This is Don signing out. Remember, I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me, because Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. All right, have a great week. I appreciate you all. Much love.